Hello there. Welcome to another talk. And this talk is called You Have Been Hypnotized into Believing that it's real virtue that you signal. This is the perfect day to do this because when I woke up this morning, I had a little look on Twitter and this person said, is people still going to wear face masks after July 19th? And I thought to myself, oh, the virtue signalers would. And just as I thought it, I looked on the comments and you had all these virtue signalers. Oh, I'll still wear a mask. It's these people are virtue signaling. And what is virtue signaling, you might ask? Virtue signaling is to do with childhood trauma. I mean, virtue signaling itself is a very childish act. You're basically trying to signal that you're a good person in order to get attention. Right? It's childish, very childish. And if you look at these people, virtue signaling is a real thing. I've seen them. They go into the shops. They'll use hand sanitizer. They use it for ages. They keep rubbing their hand for ages. It's synced in by now, 10 minutes later. And they'll look around them to see if others could see them. I've seen tons of them do it. And this whole thing, this COVID, I'm not allowed to say it doesn't exist. Because you're not allowed to say that. But this whole thing has set off this virtue signaling. You see? And the reason you might ask as well, why would someone virtue signal? What's the reason? Well, why does a child put their fingers down their throat to get attention? To get attention, right? It's the same idea. You see, it's the same idea. It's pathetic people doing things for pathetic reasons. They just do this stuff to get noticed. It's an opportunity for them to get noticed. That's what it is. Some people are just pathetic. Some people have got no backbone. All they care about is their own agenda. And a lot of these kind of people, these are the same people that'll call everybody else a narcissist. The ones that are obsessed with themselves. It's like the reason you get all these lassies on the internet that slag off their partner, call them a narcissist, is because that so-called narcissist hurt them. So they must be obsessed with themselves. They must be a narcissist to hurt them, you see. And the reason I mention that is because narcissism is in relation to what I'm talking about. Virtue signaling is a form of narcissism, There's a lot of narcissism going on right now. There's a lot of scapegoating, which is narcissistic abuse, those that haven't been vaccinated. There's gaslighting, a lot of gaslighting going on. A lot of divisions. There's not a lot of narcissism going on. So that's why I talk mainly about that now. I don't tend to talk about climate change or the COVID beginning with H, ending in X. I talk about these things because I realise the core issue is these insane maniacs at the top of the pyramid. That's doing it. But the people are to blame as well. The sheeple are to blame, they're the ones that are... And it's like the other day I saw a person on a push bike, a mountain bike, with a face mask on. I mean, you've got retards in gyms wearing face masks when they're exercising. Anthony Joshua, the boxer, wears a mask when he's training. I mean, I don't like to say that word, but these people are retarded. Because like parents that make their kids wear masks, children, most of all children, I mean, they take in a lot of oxygen, children. And when you deprive that, it's not going to be good for them, and it will cause brain damage. It will, because oxygen's a big part of the brain development in young children. I do know what I'm talking about. I have done a bit of research, and that's what happens. If a child in that early years, if the oxygen gets deprived, you'll have brain damage because you've not allowed the brain to develop. But that's the idea. You know, See how the system controls everything is it brainwashes the stupid ones at the bottom, and them sheep'll just attack anyone it doesn't obey like them. That's how it does it. Well, it's the same with people. When you get someone that thinks of right and wrong, it's not right and wrong. It's right and wrong according to their programming and set of belief systems. When a child so-called misbehaves when they're young, what you've done is you've behaved in a manner that your parents are programmed to believe is wrong. It's all programming. It's all mass control and mass program. Most people don't know what's happening. What happened to me was I had an unexpected spiritual awakening. That's how I awakened to all this, and that was my path. Just under 10 years ago, I had this unexpected spiritual awakening. But back to what I'm talking about. Yeah, virtue signaling is a childish act, and yeah, guaranteed, if that does happen on 19th of July and there's no masks, it's not mandatory in Britain, you can guarantee the virtue signalers will still be wearing them. Still be saying, stay safe, which is code for stay retarded. They're such retards. I mean, I've never associated with much people. I mean, I've had friends, but I've never really associated with much people. That's because I've always knew what they are. This has just exposed it for everybody to see, but I always knew they were like this. I always knew when the shit hit the fan, right, what it would be like. All the people that think they have virtue would be virtue signaling. You've not got virtue. The virtues that you signal are made up by insane maniacs. They just want to control you. But I've not mentioned AI, I've not mentioned climate change, so I've not really, I've not mentioned any of that, so my video should go up. I haven't mentioned anything 5G or nothing like that. We can't say that word. I've not mentioned any of that. I've just said insane people want to control you, which is what John Lennon once said. John Lennon once said that we are being run by insane maniacs, and that's true. And that's the same people that you virtue signal to. Stop virtue signaling. Why are you doing it? It's the same with these people that call everyone narcissist. Well, recognize that it's the inner narcissist within you that's doing this. It's what Carl Jung called the shadow self. He was a psychiatrist. And that's the same thing that makes someone virtue signal. Because the shadow self needs to do this kind of stuff to get attention. Because obviously the shadow self, which is the subconscious mind, the unconscious self, is traumatized. Virtue signalers are traumatized little wee children. Because a child only seeks attention because it's not happy. And it's not a happy little child. So that's the mentality of these adults, these so-called adults. And, so what's happening just now, there's an awakening, but there's a division between people. There's those that are more awake to what's going on, and there's the virtue signalers. And yes, you can guarantee after the 19th of July, the virtue signalers will still do it. One comment I saw on that Twitter I was on earlier was, I've just worn a mask because because it's law, because they tell me to. Well, you're a pathetic excuse for a man then, if you do that. You're not a real man. A real man wouldn't just comply like that. You know, that's why they try and demonize masculinity, you see. Because if they get rid of that, then there's no men. Then they just have a conformity kind of situation. You know, masculinity is very powerful. Don't underestimate masculinity. That's the force that within me that makes me know someone's not right and not comply to it. You know, and regarding viruses, I'm not allowed to mention COVID-19, but what I can mention, I can mention German New Medicine, which was science, and they found out that all illnesses come from dis-ease. And if you look at what's going on now, that's what's going on. Mass dis-ease, trying to put people in a fear kind of situation, because people only virtue signal because they're afraid. And that brings out the trauma in them, you see. That brings out the traumatized child. And so when they're in the shops, they have an opportunity then to virtue signal. We laugh at them. I laugh at them. But it's tragic, actually. These people are actually traumatized, like I said earlier, traumatized little children. They can't help themselves. You see? That's the thing, they're traumatized little children. But I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks, news, research, and much, much more, please do check my website. I post there regular at www.lovelightfamily.com.